Our most recent planting of summer squash is coming along just beautifully. These were sown about 10 days ago and are coming along real nicely now. Now I've just given them a quick watering because I'm going to be dusting them for squash bug and cucumber beetle control. Now the three varieties we have in here are Lemon Drop L, which is a summer yellow squash. We have Spineless Zucchini and also Early Prolific Straight Neck summer squash. And the trick with having good healthy summer squash is first, it's a good idea to think about a succession planting, putting in one and then a second planting maybe about 3 or 4 weeks later, so you have nice healthy plants all through the summer. The next thing is plan for preventing cucumber beetle and squash bug damage in the garden. What we've done here is wet the foliage down. I'll be dusting it with Sabadilla dust and then covering over the garden with Remay fabric. And this spun polyester fabric will screen out those insects and hopefully prevent some early damage. Of course, we'll have to remove it once the bees start working the flower blossoms in about 2 or 3 weeks. But for now, it'll give us some early protection, get the plants off to a good start. Now remember, Sabadilla dust comes in powder form. It stays best if the foliage is wet down some. It is a ground up material from the Sabadilla lily, which grows in South America, and it's one of the few home garden pesticides we have found that is very effective on cucumber beetle and squash bugs. Remember, cucumber beetle chews on the foliage and transmits disease. Squash bug explodes its population overnight, seemingly, so you need to start watching for those bronze eggs right now and crushing them, and crushing any adults you find. Also, it sucks on the foliage, and the plants, no matter how much you water them, will not recover. So make sure that you plan to prevent damage from these two pests this summer. As I cover this over with the Remay, I want to make one mention about the Sabadilla dust. As with all pesticides, you need to use great caution. It is a lung irritant, and so it's a good idea to make sure that you don't breathe the vapors. If you have problems with things like that, it's a good idea to wear one of those disposable dust masks. And of course, make sure you wash your hands and wash your clothing when you're through dusting. And on a windy day like this, it's not the best time, but we generally tape in the afternoons, and that brings wind to Stillwater. It'd be better to do it in the evening or early morning. Well, our onions are about ready for harvest. The tops are falling over. The extension offices have been getting calls the past couple of weeks about when do you know how to harvest onions or know when it's the right time. And as the tops start to fall over, such as these right here, then you can generally break the others over with your shoe or your boot. And what that does is encourages the neck of the onions, this part right here, to dry down. And that's very important for those onions to store properly. Now ours, we've allowed to get overcrowded, which is easy to do if you're just planting for spring onions. Still, I want you to notice that neck part right there. That needs to get paper dry all the way through before those are ready for storing. Now the very sweet onions will not store as well as some of the hotter onions. So use up your sweet onions first or process them. Either chop them up and dry them in a food dehydrator or freeze them and use them later on because they won't keep in our Oklahoma heat. Well, it's potato harvest time, and a little while ago I dug our Irish cobbler potatoes. They were ready for harvest, and I just want to show you from these 3 plants that were here, we ended up with a nice harvest. Got a couple little red Pontiac varieties mixed in there, but these are all Irish cobbler. They're a good boiling potato. Now remember, when you dig potatoes, the ones that have been speared with a fork, if they have any damage on them, use those first. And the others, just store someplace cool and dry. Down here, I have Kennebec variety, and they still are putting some food into the tubers. I dug a couple of them, and they're not as big as I'd like them to be just yet. So I'm going to leave those plants until they die back more. This is Kennebec. It's a baking type potato, and I'd like to see it get about 25 or 30% larger or more so before I dig them. But our red Pontiac potatoes, which we enjoy for boiling with green beans, or eating as new potatoes are ready for harvest. I just want to show you how nicely these turned out. Red Pontiac really is a variety that's well adapted to Oklahoma conditions. I think those would be just great cooked up with some green beans and bacon fat. Make a little cornbread to go with it. It's maybe not the best thing for your heart, but it is a good old Oklahoma dinner.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.